Phil here in the layer by layer layer. So many people say I should touch grass, so that's just what I'm going to do. I'm getting out my crafting table and trying to 3D model, print, and finish a Minecraft movie version creeper using both fuzzy skin settings for one and static grass on another. That's 2 for the price of 1. Stick around to see if this blows up in my face.
Creeper. Oh man.
I've been working on my blending skills in Blender, and I feel like I am finally ready to take the plunge and model my own thing to print. I didn't want anything too hard, so I figured I would make something from Minecraft, nice and blocky. And who doesn't love a creeper? Well, maybe you don't love them if you lose your diamond pickaxe or it blows up your house, but as far as modeling goes, I figured this would be easy enough. Just throw some rectangles together and voila! But then I saw the Minecraft movie trailer. These creepers are absolutely covered in grass, and they have a hollow head cavity to boot. What convinced me to finally roll my own grassy movie version creeper was looking at the actual paint scheme of the game version creeper. Just look at the variety of greens and grays in those squares. It seemed like an absolute pain to paint, and I couldn't really be bothered. And neither can Minecraft merchandisers, it would seem. As an added bonus, if I make it the movie version, I can ride the YouTube search wave. But I have to model it up before I can grasp that out. Modeling the movie version of the creeper wasn't too bad, even though I really don't know what I'm doing. I wanted this to be as tall as possible, and so I did a bit of math and figured out I needed the body to be 117 millimeters tall and 72 millimeters wide. I just took the default cube and stretched it out a bit, and bam, creeper torso. With the torso done, it was now on to the leg, and yes, I do mean leg. I decided I would create one leg and then mirror it across the body on 2 axes. I created a new cube and extruded it out and down. And then the fact that I don't know what I'm doing led to me failing to bevel the edges for longer than I'd like to admit. I eventually figured out I needed to select all edges to bevel at the same time, or it just looked wrong. After finally getting the leg done, I looked at it and realized I didn't really like how it looked, and so deleted it and did it all over again. And I definitely did it quickly and without any trouble now that I had done it once before. After completing the leg without any trouble at all, I mirrored it across the X and Y axes of the torso. I then beveled the body and made a copy of it to use as a head, but I had to figure out how to make the head hollow, so I decided to solidify the head. But I, say it with me now, don't know what I'm doing. Yeah! And therefore had some issues. I eventually figured out I needed to change the offset to a positive number, and was able to solidly solidify the head correctly. Now I had to give the creeper its character, by punching holes in its head for the eyes and mouth nose thing. I used Boolean modifiers for this. The eyes were pretty easy to do since it was just an elongated cube that I mirrored across the head and then punched out. The mouth nose was a bit trickier, but I decided to bring in a reference image, which I should have done all along. But at least I'm doing it now. I modeled the mouth nose directly on the image, moved it over, punched the hole in the face, and just like that, the creeper had its vacant stare and gaping maw. Now it was time to wrangle the little piggies, which is to say make the toes. And while I was wrestling with the piggies, I realized I mirrored the legs too soon, so they may disappear in the footage you are about to see. Despite dismemberment, just know that no creepers were harmed in the making of this film. I started a nail off with UV sphere that I made very low poly, and I worked it into a very rough nail shape. I moved it over to the body, copied it twice, and then deleted those copies because I needed to actually sculpt the toe before making copies. In sculpt mode, I channeled my inner pedicurist and worked on the cuticles and the overall toe shape. I then made the copies and arranged them nicely on the leg and joined them to the leg and headed back into sculpt mode to smooth over the creases. Finally, I was able to mirror 4 legs again and joined those to the body and smoothed out some things there, and with that, it was on to the slicing. Seeing as I have never printed anything this big, I started with a 50% sized creeper. I painted on supports for the top of the mouth and the bottom parts of the legs, but left the big underside to simply bridge. I switched to wall generation and adaptive cubic infill, and it turned out pretty okay. So I maxed out the build volume and printed the big boy, who I am now calling Creepy Dave for all the Zay Frank True Facts fans out there. Unfortunately, the bridging on the bottom didn't really work at this size, but static grass hides all sins. Speaking of which, it is now time to get to the grass and nail polish. I used the smaller version to try out different paint consistencies for the toenails because I just wanted to add a white wash on top that would let the green show through. Really make it look like he's fighting a fungal infection. But it turned out that watered down paint loved to flow into the layer lines, and I just ended up using undiluted white paint, which I then wiped off with a paper towel. With the nails all done, I took something I learned from my previous video on making an army of Pikachus and printed some test squares to try things out. I tried 2, 4, and 6 millimeter grass all on their own, and then one with all three layered on top from 2 to 4 to 6. The individual lengths all looked fine, but the layered version just looks leaps and bounds better, so that is what I went with. It's like a tri-coat paint on a car, but with grass. I took my brush and started making my happy little bush by putting a layer of Mod Podge at the bottom and then spray adhesive to add layers on top. All sides got all three layers, except the bottom, which only did 2 and 4, and the bottom of the feet, which got only 2 millimeters. I also needed to add some grass on the inside of the head, so I slathered adhesive around inside there and dumped a ton of grass and shook it like a Polaroid picture before dumping out the unattached grass. Here I took a pause while everything dried because I found myself wondering if there was an easier way. I mean, sure, manually applying static grass gave Creepy Dave the luscious, overgrown look of an abandoned theme park, but could I cheat my way to a similar effect using slicer settings instead? Maybe I could use fuzzy skin to at least approximate grass. But I ran into an issue. You can't get fuzzy skin on top surfaces. So I buckled down and got hard at work to find a solution. By quickly Googling it and finding this video from Teaching Tech, link below, with a pretty cool idea to get an approximate fuzzy skin by over-extruding top layers. I'll let you check out the video for a more detailed review, but basically, you set the top surface flow ratio to 1.7, set the top level pattern to Hilbert curve, and set fuzzy skin point distance and thickness to both be 0.5. Editing fill here, with one thing that past me forgot to mention. You need to exclude the nails from getting fuzzy, which you can do with a shape in the slicer itself. So here I had to add a shape on the front of each leg, blocking out the toes and setting those to not be fuzzy skin. Okay. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. And with that, you get a pretty decent grass approximation without all the hassle. We'll get Glam Shots for both in just a bit, but for now, Creepy Dave is dry and ready for some final touches. The movie creeper doesn't just have grass. It also has some other little plant things growing on it. And so I got some plastic clover patches and shaved off their tops and then sprinkled them like Salt Bae on the various sides to give Creepy Dave that just got out of hedge look. One last issue was left to address. He sheds like a husky. So I got out some hairspray to seal it all up, and with the hair done, we're ready to go for the close-ups and the glam shots, where you'll also get to see that the hairspray maybe didn't quite work so well. I am genuinely really happy with how both of these turned out. While the turfed version was a lot more work, I think I like it better. But let's hear how Imogen, Imagina, and the 3D printer feel. Imagina. I have taken about 4 hours to cover this in grass. This one I had to do absolutely no work with afterwards. Which one do you like best?
The grass creeper.
So you think it was worth the time?
Yes.
Imogen, do you think this one was worth it? Which one do you like better?
Both.
Okay, I'm here with the 3D printer, also known as my wife. Which one do you like best?
The non-grass covered one.
So, in your opinion, it was not worth it to take the time to cover it in grass?
Worth your time or worth my time? Because those are two different questions. If you enjoyed doing the grass covered one, it was totally worth your time. I support you.
You've heard their opinions, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments if you think the grass was worth the work, or if you'll just give the grass a pass and go with the fuzzy skin version. If you want to print either of these yourself, be sure to check out the models on MakerWorld, links below. And if you liked this video, please give it a like. Not just for me or the channel, but for Creepy Dave, who endured multiple leg amputations and excessive hair loss, all for your entertainment. If you want to see more, subscribe here, and be sure to check out this video for more 3D printing fun.